what I am very passionate about talking is really resilience and determination. I hate negativity and I hate complaining. You will never hear me complain even when I'm on my deathbed and I'm like exhausted and tired. I grew up during the war for 14 years and I never once complained. And I think that's what drove me over the time to really push forward, to become successful. I can really transform lives from the inside out.
I'm sure we didn't even touch the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There's so much more to you in your story. Yeah. And it belongs in a book. In fact, I think it belongs in a movie. Welcome back, everyone, to Pain to Power. So excited for this guest today. Known as the real OC dentist, renowned cosmetic dentist, a veneer expert, she is celebrated for her smile makeover techniques, her story from escaping war-torn Lebanon in her early teens to teaching herself English, skipping high school and starting college at 14 years old to standing tall as a symbol of resilience and excellence in the U.S. offers unparalleled insights. She is a loyal advocate for women's empowerment, motivational speaker, a dedicated mother, an exceptional wife, a passionate entrepreneur, a fitness fanatic, host of the podcast Smile Diaries, my dear friend, and the one behind this $1 billion smile. Ooh. Please welcome Miss Dr. Guitta Harb.
Oh, wow. Thank you for having me, Kayla.
Yeah, thank you for coming
And that smile
on.
Is just, woo, stunning. I love it.
I'm like, yeah, I'm
It's
already
gorgeous.
feeling the confidence. I'm not hiding behind my smile anymore in the sense of you guys already know about why I got my veneers redone, but I was really insecure for a while.
Yeah.
And now I can't stop smiling. Like
I know, I can see it. When we're out, you're just like, la. It's gorgeous and it looks stunning on you. And I'm so happy that you love it. So
thanks to you.
It looks beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to get into your story. You have an incredible story that no one has really heard before. And I'm surrounded by people constantly, and we all go through stuff. We all have stories, but yours just stands out incredibly. So I'm really excited to get into that today.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and kind of start okay. How were you given the name The Real OC Dentist?
Oh my gosh. So, when I started my practice, I was just basically under my name, which was Guitta Harb, DMD. And then a few years into it, I started to get some of the housewives of Orange County and some celebrities into my office. And I said, I need a good, nice, catchy name. And so I just thought The Real OC Dentist and would be a really nice, interesting name. So we just switched it out and it kind of became a brand name, really. And I love it.
I do. That's so brilliant.
Yes.
So it's like, and that makes sense because you're the #1 dentist in Orange County.
I love you. Thank you.
So it's like, anyways, I was just curious. When did you pick up on that name? Like how long ago?
I picked up on the name, I think it's been a good, I want to say 9 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, 9 to 8 years, maybe something like that. So yeah, it's been a little while.
How fun.
Yeah, and I love it. And I think it just makes it easy for people to remember.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people will say, well, what doctor did you go to? And they'll try to remember the last name. And I wanted something catchy and easy and something, fun for people to remember. And so we just came up with The Real OC Dentist. And I just think it's fun. And we just went with it.
Yeah. So. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So, okay. So on social media, if you guys follow her, you will see her literally doing it all. Okay. Never missing a workout, making breakfast for the kiddos and hubby, to working all day, changing lives one smile at a time, to come home, do either cooking or going out looking fabulous as if you were working all day. So how do you do it all? And how do you handle naysayers when they give you such a hard time?
I have always been a little bit of an overachiever and a perfectionist. And I grew up with a dad that was really also amazing and a great example because he did a lot too. And so I always looked up to him. And for me, I always thought, growing up, we'll get into that in detail later on, growing up during the war, I really started appreciating every minute in my life and really wanted to as much as I can, use every single moment. And wasting time for me is a big thing. And, so for me, waking up and making breakfast for the kids and working out before they wake up and working hard and really filling my day with so much productivity is very, very important to me mentally, because I grew up with that. And, and the fact that when you're growing up and you don't know if you're going to survive the next day or see another sunrise, every minute becomes so important. And so being lazy for me and not doing what I really want to accomplish every single day is not something that I want. So waking up and doing all the things and running around, it's a lot. And sometimes I do get to a point where I'm just exhausted. And that happens to me probably about every quarter, every 3 months. I get to a point where I'm like, I just can't move because I'm just exhausted from all the things that I do. But really, I don't see it any other way. I don't see myself just sitting home, not working out, not being a great mom. And everything I do, I'm so passionate with everything I do, whatever it is, whether it's being a mom, a wife, a doctor, an entrepreneur, a fitness fanatic. I do it 110% with love and passion. And that's what just keeps me motivated every day to go. And so that's really important to me. And then when I collapse for about a day, and then I get up and I'm ready to go again.
You collapse actually? Like you
I
actually
do.
rest?
I literally well, I try to rest.
You're the Energizer
but
bunny.
it might be for some people not resting. But to me, collapsing is like sleeping until about 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's really what I call.
That's so funny because that's my sleeping in. They're like 6:30. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes now my husband will look at me. He's like, wow, you stayed until 6:30. I'm like, I'm just really tired. But yeah, I do enjoy every minute. And I really love, everything that I do, and I do it with passion and love.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, you guys, rest is important. Let's make that clear.
It is, guys. Don't
wanna,
wear yourself down.
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't want to burn yourself out because in order for you to be able to do it all, you have to have that
for
rest.
sure. And I learned the hard way as well.
Okay.
So, for me, going all these years and not really taking care of myself and putting self-care first did have an impact on my health. And as you remember with my speech on, Women of Impact, I did talk about how I did collapse at one point because I was go, and I wasn't really taking the time for myself. So I want to make sure that, I'm not putting the message out there to just go kill yourself and do so much, run, and not really take care of yourself. It's really important to take a step back and realize that I do need today to rest. I do need self-care. And so I learned the hard way. It got to a point where, I was having a lot of heart arrhythmias. I was just exhausted and ended up with a cardiologist. And he was like, well, what are you doing every day? Are you taking a lunch hour? And I was like, no, because at my lunch hour, I would sit down and do my charts and write things or have meetings with my staff or whatnot. And I never took 5 minutes during the day for myself. And at that point, that's when I realized you have to do self-care. And part of the reason that I do get up so early in the morning is to really have that 2 hours for myself in the morning. Because, come 6:30 in the morning, it's time to wake up the kids, make them breakfast, get their uniforms ready, get them to school and all of that. And it's just, then it's going to work and working all day. And when I'm at work, being a dentist is extremely mentally and physically exhausting because you're on all day long. And people come into your office with so much anxiety, and most of them don't want to be there. They associate dentistry with drilling and pain and needles and all of that. So you're taking all that anxiety on yourself and away from the patients, which requires a lot of energy. So, and you're physically laboring. You're not sitting at a desk on a computer, sipping on a cup of coffee. You're actually bending over, you're working, you're laboring. And so it's really physically and mentally a very tiring job. And, I just wasn't taking the time to do anything for myself. And so waking up really early in the morning, sometimes 4:30 and 5, having that 2 hours for myself really has helped me decompress because it's I get up, I sit down, I have my coffee, I, wait for the sunrise, I watch it, I do my emails or my social media or whatever. And then I work out, and the workout deflates me. It really is for me, a therapy. And it's really important. So definitely self-care. And I'm learning nowadays, little by little, it's okay to go get a massage. It's okay to take a day off sometimes. It's okay to take a girls trip and, be with your girlfriends every once in a while. And I never had, I always used to get anxious when I would leave my kids and husband. And it took me years, it took me 14 years to really learn that it's okay to leave them at home for, an hour or two and go out and have like a nice dinner with girlfriends. I started taking trips with my girlfriends, just recently, the last year, going away for 3 days. And, as much as anxiety as I still get the night before leaving, I enjoy it and I come back refreshed.
Yep.
So it's definitely important, self-care, taking the time for yourself. But you just have to be very efficient with your time and know, when do I need to rest and when, do I need to push forward?
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you for explaining that part,
Yeah.
because that is really, really important.
It's very important.
Yeah, self-care, having the rest, whatever that is for you, that's extremely important.
Definitely.
Now, I remember you telling me, you mentioned that people would give you a hard time for doing it all. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Sometimes you have friends around you that would say things like, well, you're a doctor, you shouldn't be cooking. Or why do you cook when you get home? Or I enjoy making lunch for my husband every morning, because I want him to eat well and be healthy. And I would get things like, why are you making lunch for your husband?
Why do they care? First of all,
I don't know. This is
it's none of your business. It's not your life.
Exactly.
But it's just so interesting to me.
It's very interesting because people sometimes put you down for certain things.
Okay.
And this is one of the things where I was like, I actually enjoy getting up and making lunch for my husband because I know if I don't, he's probably going to end up eating out and it's not going to be very healthy. So to me, we grew up, my mom was very old fashioned. And she got up and, we're 8 kids. And so she took care of all of us all the time. And there would be probably about 10 pots on the stove every morning at 6:30. So I grew up with that tradition of women taking care of their families. And as much as I am, a professional and independent woman, and I love to work and all of that, I still have that feminine side of me where I want to take care of my husband. I want to take care of my kids. And so it does annoy me a little bit when people say things like that, as if you're either one or the other, as if you're a doctor, you're not meant to cook and take care of your kids or make lunch for your husband, or you're a housewife and you just do that and you're not meant to work. And, being me, I hate to be put in a box. I just hate it. I hate when people label you in a certain way or put you in a certain box, because you should be able to do whatever you want and be whoever you want.
Yeah.
And so, I just learned to, over the time, just not care and really do what I want and what makes me happy. Because in the end, it really is, that's what it comes down to.
Exactly. It's whatever makes you happy, just
Absolutely.
like you said. And it's no one else's business. So back
Absolutely.
off.
And I'm sure you get the same thing all the time. People.
I don't though.
Oh, that's
I have gotten people giving me a hard time, like, how dare you not give your son a father? And I'm like,
well, there you go. That's, it's
First
not
of all,
really your fault.
you all act like that's a choice. Like that wasn't a choice. I mean,
Exactly.
it was, anyways, I'm not going to get into that part of my life, but it's like, you guys, just worry about yourself. Like, it's funny when people, strangers, especially strangers, well, you were saying friends, but it's funny when people have a negative opinion on you and you don't even know who they
and
are.
they don't know you. And they don't know a sliver of your life or what you've been through.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I loved seeing you speak at the Women of Impact event at the crypto arena.
Before I fell down.
Before you fell down.
No, that was after I fell down.
That was after. Yep, that's right. That was after.
Yes.
But hands down, and I'm not just saying this because you're my friend, but hands down was the best speech that night. It was so,
thank you so much.
Beautiful. Can you share with the viewers what you are most passionate about speaking about when you get up on stage?
Yeah, I love speaking on stage, and really most of the time what I am very passionate about talking is really resilience and determination. Because people, sometimes they think, well, I've been a victim of this situation, or I've been a victim of this circumstance, or I was born in this situation or born in that situation. And I think, realizing that you're not a victim and really learning to take your situation and grow from it and make something better from it is really important to me. And I really want to make sure that I am impacting people in that way, and especially women as well, because, I get a lot of women on social media that'll say, well, like you said, how did you get here? How do you do it all? How do you, you went from this to that? And so it's important to realize how important resilience is, and being in a situation where, I grew up during the war for 14 years, and I didn't speak English when I came here, and I came here super young. And I never once complained, Kayla. I never once looked at myself and I said, oh, I'm 14 and my parents are not here and I don't speak English and I don't have the advantage other people have here that grew up here and were born here.
Mm-hmm. And you still don't, by the way. You've always been so positive since I've known you.
Yeah.
You've never said anything negative ever. I've never heard you once complain.
Yeah.
So that's true to this day, but sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. I hate negativity and I hate complaining.
Mm-hmm.
You will never hear me complain, even when I'm on my deathbed and I'm like exhausted and tired. And
I feel so bad because yesterday when we went to brunch, I was complaining about the weight. And I didn't realize that until after I got home. I was so tired. And I was thinking, I'm like, gosh. And I read, sorry to interrupt you, but really quick, this is like a sign because this morning I learned about grumble. Grumble is another word for complaining, which is in the Bible. Right. So I started reading about that. I'm like, that was God speaking to me. Like,
absolutely,
you need to stop complaining. I'm like,
ugh. Yeah.
Anyways, and even
normal.
yesterday,
yeah, it's normal for us to complain. And I wake up every morning and I thank God for being able to breathe. Yeah. This is it. Like this, I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm healthy. I've got my limbs, I've got my heart, I've got my lungs, I'm able to breathe. And that's for me is number one. So when you really start to practice gratitude, and that comes from a lot of work, you really have to dig deep into yourself and learn the power of gratitude. And when you wake up every morning and you look at yourself and you go, I don't have this car, I don't have this house, I have this job, it's all negativity because you're self-talking stuff into your head, which causes negativity, which causes you not really to go after what you want. But when you get up in the morning, you're like, the sun's shining. I used to, when I was younger back home, I used to just pray every night that I would keep my arms and legs. Like that was like a priority to me. So like when I wake up now and I just see the sun shining and I'm healthy, that to me, number one, my kids are healthy, my husband is healthy. To me, that's number one. Like I already checked the box in the morning just by waking up. And so complaining to me has never been a thing. I've always been so grateful for everything that was, given to me, for everything that I've accomplished. And I think that's what drove me over the time to really push forward, to become successful and to be at the point that I am today. So to me, that's number one. And realizing really what you have and being grateful for it is huge. So, you just have to wake up every morning and realize, God gave you health and God gave you, everything around you. You just have to make the most of it. So,
yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So speaking of, I would like to get super deep. And so you're originally from Lebanon.
Right.
You've already mentioned a few times about you living in war.
Yeah.
Talking about your limbs. Let's go there. Let's go there. Because that's
all right.
That's,
tissues, guys.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I got some tissues for backup.
Yeah.
But let's share with the viewers about your incredible story of growing up basically in the middle of a war. Yeah. So I would love to hear.
My story is I was born in the war. I basically was a baby when the war started in Lebanon. And there have been so many different wars in Lebanon. We've had civil wars. We've had wars with, our neighboring countries in South and North and, you name it, we've had it. And although, Lebanon is a beautiful country and, it's all on the Mediterranean and we had a beautiful life. We're on the beach and the mountains and we had a great family, life and all of that and had amazing parents. It was very hard growing up during the war. So, as a child, it also affects you a lot more when you're a young child growing up, during the war as if you are already an adult. And so my story is, we'd be home and they start bombing and we had shelters.
You say that so casually.
Because I lived there for 14 years.
Yeah.
And so, it becomes kind of when you're living there, it becomes a way of life. You think that's how everybody lives. You don't know any better. we haven't lived outside of the country, and I was born into it. Now, for my parents, it's different because, they remember Lebanon as the Paris of the Middle East. They remember it as, everyone used to go there to party and have a good time. And, it was really considered the gem of the Middle East. For me, because I was born during the war, was a different story. So I look at it, it is still a beautiful country to me, but I look at it with a lot of, not to say resentment, but a lot of, memories as well that were not the best memories to grow up with. And so, there's been many days where, in Lebanon and Beirut, you live in penthouses because it's a city. And so every building has now what we call a bomb shelter. So, and some buildings don't because, maybe they were older or they didn't make bomb shelters or whatnot. And so the bomb shelters would be underground, under your building. And obviously, they're dark and it's just like cement floors and it's not anything nice at all. So basically it's just going into a dungeon, pretty much what it looks like. And so I grew up, you'd be sleeping, for instance, and then 2:00 in the morning, you just hear, and, and I would just get up. And I had so much anxiety as a child from the war that I was in charge of the shelter key. And I would literally sleep every single night with the shelter key in my hand. I would sleep with slippers on my feet. So if a bomb hit, I can just get up and run and get down to the shelter. And I remember as a child being scared to sleep on my side because I wanted both ears open so I can hear which direction the bomb was coming from. And as a 5-year-old, Kayla, I could tell you whether that bomb was coming from the east or west or north or south. Wow. And just from the whistle of it, because you've heard it so many times.
Yeah.
And I remember being like 6 and 7 and going, oh, that's coming from West Beirut. Like, hide this way. That's coming from, the east. That's coming from the north. And so there's been so many nights where we've gotten hit. We had bombs like literally outside our street, with the bomb shells on our balconies. And so you'd get up in the middle of the night. I would have the key and I would constantly sleep on my back. And if I ever turned to my right or left, I would freak out and wake up as a child because I'm like, oh, no, I need both ears up and I need to hear what's going on so I can run really fast. And of course, when you hear that bomb take off, you have about maybe just a few seconds to get down to the bomb shelter. It's not like you have a whole lot of time.
Right.
And we would jump out of bed and, you would see pretty much the sky's orange and red and purple from the bombs going off. And then you're just hoping that bomb's not going to fall on your building in your house. And so I would literally run down as a child. I would just open the door, run down. And at the time in Lebanon, and still to this day, the government will shut down the electricity for a few hours during the day or randomly throughout the day or the night. So a lot of times you wake up and there's no electricity. So we had generators because of the economy and because, they would cut down supply for fuel and things like that and electric. So they would shut off electricity. And so if you didn't have a generator, you're basically sitting on a lantern light, just doing your homework on a lantern light, studying, just living at night or whatever it is. And so, luckily we had a generator, but sometimes it would take a little while, a few minutes to pick up. So by that time when you wake up, you're just running in full darkness and you're running down the stairs because now you have no elevators working because there's no electricity. Wow. And I remember just flying down the stairs and opening, the shelter door. And just sometimes we'd spend 2 to 3 days just downstairs. And we would maybe have within 3 days, maybe like 5 minutes where the bombing would stop. And I remember my mom's like, I'm going to run upstairs and get us like a blanket, or I'm going to run upstairs and, get your pajamas so you can change or whatnot. And you would be underground sometimes for days. And, and it's not fun. You're sleeping on the ground. We put mattresses on the ground and we'd sleep on the ground on cement floors in the dark and just pray and hope that, that bomb doesn't hit you and that you're going to wake up the next day. And, growing up, we had the news on all the time and you would see, kids from the war losing their limbs and losing their, arms and being handicapped. And I just grew up remembering being a child. Maybe I was like 6 or 5, between 5 and 7. And we were very religious. I grew up Catholic, and I just prayed. I would always have the cross around my neck, and I would just always hold it in the shelter. And I still do.
Yeah.
And I would always hold it in the shelter and pray that, you are going to make me cry. I would just pray to God that just keep my family safe and keep my limbs and keep my arms. And that was really a goal for me. And it was a lot. It was a lot growing up. And really that, when you're sitting in the middle of the night and hoping and praying that you're going to see yourself alive, that you're going to see your family alive the next day. Sometimes, my dad would be like, oh, I'm going to go sleep upstairs. I don't want to sleep down here. And I would pray that please keep my dad alive upstairs, or keep my family okay. And, you wake up and then you see the sunrise and you're like, oh, another day, another day. Thank you, God. And so, that's why faith is so important to me too, because I remember growing up and just praying a lot and praying and praying and praying and praying every single night for probably hours and hours at a time. And sometimes you wake up and the next day, school would be open and they'll say, okay, well, get your stuff. You're going to school. And then you would get up and just go to school. Like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Like it's just another day. And we would be doing homework on a candlelight in the shelter. And we would have tests the next morning. They're like, okay, well, get up and go. I mean, imagine that. Imagine like right now, my daughter, if, she doesn't have 2 to 3 hours to study, I worry about her. I'm like, oh my gosh, she didn't get enough time to, like yesterday we were at lunch and she was like, Mommy, I have homework to do and I gotta get home. And I worry about that. And then I think about what I have gone through and how hard it was to, balance growing up as a child in the war and praying that you're going to survive. And then really like worrying about homework at the same time and going to school the next day as if nothing has ever happened. And so it becomes a way of life. It becomes a way that, you think everybody lives like that. And that's just how the world works. And yeah, so we would go to school the next day. And even when we were at school, they would start bombing. And, my older sister at that time was driving and my mom would basically say, well, gotta go get your sister from school. And she would drive under bombs and get us from school. And we would be in the car and driving and, bombs are falling. And you're like, I hope I make it home. I hope I make it home. And there's been so many situations, we had like a tennis court maybe about 3 to 5 minutes away from our house, a walk. And we would go down there and play tennis. And I remember one day I was playing tennis with my brother and we started to hear the bombs. And I said, Gunnar, it's getting closer. The bombs are getting closer. I think we should get home. And he's like, I think we have about maybe 10 minutes. Let's just play like 5 more minutes until we hear the bombs get louder and louder. And something inside of me, it was like almost like God was on this side and he was like, run home now. Like, just do it now. And I dropped everything and I said, Gunnar, we need to go home now. And literally we just started running home. And within, I think about less than a minute, a bomb fell in the tennis courts and destroyed the tennis courts completely. There was nothing left of it. Oh. And had I not pushed him to leave at that point, and had I not listened to that voice inside of me, and I know now looking back, it was God, I probably wouldn't have left and I would have been dead. But I mean, there's been so many situations where it's been very, very close to death, within seconds. Wow. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a tough childhood as much as it was beautiful in so many other ways. It was really hard childhood to bear.
Well, it's almost like your childhood was, excuse me.
Yeah.
No, I can't imagine living through that or going through that. It's
definitely not easy.
Your childhood was taken away from you.
Yeah, it was taken away. But, in a lot of sense, when I moved here, again, I didn't look at it as like, oh my God, I'm this victim or I'm going to be, I'm not going to thrive. And I always looked at it as I'm going to survive and I will thrive, not just survive, but I will make the best out of my life because I had those days and because I had those experiences where I thought, God, life is just so precious. When you're little and you think you're going to die every single day, you really realize like life is just precious and you just go for what you want and you follow your passions and your everything that your dreams. And I think it made me who I am, although I have a lot of PTSD and a lot of, anxiety. And I think I had to deal with a lot of it later on in life.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, you must have some sort of PTSD when there's certain sounds that maybe go off.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about
when I first moved here, when I was a teenager and I moved here, I was 14. I couldn't even have anyone shut the door loud. If anybody smacked the door in the house, I would jump. I thought it was a bomb. If anybody yelled and screamed, I thought the world was ending, and I would like run and get ready to get in that palm shelter, although it was safe and it was, being here.
Right.
I want to say it took me probably about 20 years to really get over, little by little, to get over all that trauma. And still to this day, Kayla, if my kids are running around in the house and they slam the door loud, it within an instant, it just brings me back to that 5-year-old girl sitting in the shelter and bombs are falling. And it's interesting how trauma stays in your cells and in your body.
It does.
And you might get over it, but you might forget about it, and you might, feel like as if you've moved on.
Yeah.
But it never leaves you. It never really leaves you. It's a part of you. It's a part of your being.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for me a year or two. It was 14 years. So imagine going through trauma for 14 years. It wasn't like it was just a summer or one experience or a quick accident. It was my entire childhood from the day I was born. And so for that to really leave your body, it takes years and years and years and years. And still to this day, everyone's like, you speak so softly. You're always so soft. Like, speak up a little bit. And to me, I think I do because I'm soft spoken because of that reason, because I don't like loud noises. My husband is a little bit loud sometimes, and I'll say, honey, why do you speak so loud? He's like, that's just the way how I talk. And I'm like, tone it down a little bit. I think loud noises still bother me to this day. I like everything calm. I try to keep my household really calm. I don't like yelling at the kids no matter what they do. I sit them down and I talk to them gently. I don't like loud noises in my house. No slamming doors are allowed. Because it all just brings back, it's a lot of PTSD. A lot. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. No, it's true. Yeah. Trauma, your mind forgets about it, but your body always remembers.
Your body
and that's
will
with
always
any
remember.
trauma. Yeah. No, that's
absolutely,
that's insane.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this happened from since you were born up until you're 14.
Right.
So what happened between when you were 14? Really? So, sorry, let me back up a little bit.
Yeah.
You taught yourself English.
I did.
Yes. I was told that English was my first language.
Right.
Well, my only language. I speak a little Spanish. I can read and write it. I won't go there. But I was told by other immigrants, English is very one of the hardest language to learn. It was self-taught. How did you do that? So what happened in between the age you were 14, learning English, and then coming to America?
Yeah.
So let's
absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I moved here, Kayla, I was last year of middle school in Lebanon, and we never finished because the war just, kept on getting worse. And so I think I had about maybe 3 months left or so of middle school. And I was graduating, supposed to have this graduation and a party and whatnot. And we just left. We left the country at 2 a.m. in the morning on a boat. Like, we just closed the house, packed a couple of things.
On a boat.
And in the middle of like bombs falling around us. It was crazy. And then we went to Cyprus, ended up staying in Cyprus for about, I want to say 2 weeks. And we were thinking, we just packed like shorts and t-shirts and thinking like, hey, we're just going to come back. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to come back to Lebanon. Well, it wasn't okay. And then we ended up coming to the States to visit my brothers. So when I was in Lebanon, I went to a French, all-girl Catholic French lycée. And we, obviously it was a French school. So I spoke French and Arabic, and those were my 2 languages. So when I came to the States, I barely knew English. It was mainly the basics, I'd like, hi, nice to meet you, hello, like just barely to get by. And at the time, my parents had said, we're going to find you a high school. We're going to put you in high school for, the 4 years, and you're going to learn English in high school, and then you'll go to college after 4 years. And I was like, sure, great. I mean, just go with the flow. We're alive. Like, thank God, And so when I went to high school, they signed me up for a Catholic high school on the East Coast. And when I tested for the high school, because they wanted to see like, where are we going to put her? Is she freshman and I was supposed to be a freshman. They're like, oh, she's just beyond her years. It's a really waste of time for her to learn to go to high school for 4 years. Her level is college level right now. And so I think she needs to be in college.
And this was in the States?
This was in the States. This was in Connecticut.
Yeah.
We stayed in Connecticut for a little while at the beginning. Yeah.
So they had you go just straight at 14 years old?
Yeah. So at that point, when I was 14 and a half, my parents said, well, she doesn't speak English, so how is she going to go to college? And so the high school said, and this was halfway through the year now. We had already like celebrated Christmas, and we're, past January. And there was maybe about 4 months left after, like February, March, April, May, and they were graduating. And so the high school said, let's do this. Let's just put her with the graduating class. She could do 3 months of high school, and she'll learn a little bit of like spoken English there, and then she'll graduate and go to college. And I just went with it. I didn't think anything at the time. And so they did. They put me in high school for 3 months with the graduating class. And I walked into high school not knowing a word of English. And I just taught myself. I grabbed a dictionary and I started going to class with the dictionary. So while the teacher was talking, I would open the dictionary and try to like catch up with what she's saying or he's saying. What? And, I made friends and I started speaking, and I was very adamant about learning English and about dropping my accent and like perfecting it. And because I was always that child that like whatever I got into, it had to be just perfect. And so little by little, I just from speaking to friends and, dictionary and learning, and I started watching movies, a lot of American movies. And that's pretty much how I learned how to speak. I really just taught myself how to speak English. Wow. Yeah. And, at the time I didn't have that many friends because I had just moved here. So little by little, I learned English. And at almost 15, my parents said, okay, well, you're going to move to the West Coast and go to college. And so I did. I started college at almost 15. And
they allow that?
They did, yeah.
Wait, okay, yeah. So which college is this?
It was Portland State University in Oregon, Portland, Oregon.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea that you could do that.
Yeah, yeah. You cannot, you can go to college at any age you want as long as your parents sign off on it and you're fine.
Oh, so you don't need like a GED or anything.
Yeah, no, we just, they signed me up. I took a test, whatever. I can't remember what the test was, and passed it. And they're like, she's ready. Let's sign her up. So we did.
Wow.
And then I did 4 years of pre-dental and graduated with a biology major and a psychology minor, and applied to dental schools and went on. And, college was hard. It wasn't easy because I was still trying to learn, English at the same time. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What was the transition like from being 15 years old in college as an immigrant to now being the #1 dentist in OC as the real OC dentist?
Yeah.
What was that transition like? I'm sure it wasn't easy for you.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
First of all, being in college that age, there was so much age difference between me and most of the students, 4, 5, even more years. And it was hard because I wasn't able to do a lot of things that other, college students were, because I was under the age. I wasn't even 18. And so I feel like in a way I missed out on a lot of things, but in another way, I was very mature and I was really focused on my studies and where I wanted to go. And I had a goal, and I always, as a child, remember just always thinking 5, 10, 15 years ahead. Always, always, always. And I always saw a picture in my head of where I wanted to be. And I just set goals and, and a route to get there. And so it was really hard, looking back at it. I wasn't able to date, obviously, because I was super young. I wasn't able to have boyfriends. I wasn't even driving in college. I couldn't even drive. I was so young. I didn't have a car. I wasn't able to drive. I never went out and partied, which is a good thing, I guess. But I didn't do any of those things that a normal college kid would do. So socially, there was a lot of, setbacks. But at the time, again, I was so focused on my studies and where I wanted to be that it didn't really bother me so much. But there was times when I would be like, I wish I could do this, and I wish I could go and like join this party or go to that party or whatnot, but I wasn't allowed. I was, at the time, my brothers were living, I was living with them, and they were really strict on me, and my parents were like, we're not here with her, so you are pretty much like her parents and you gotta like watch out. So they were like, no to everything. And graduating and going on to become a dentist. Dental school was the same thing. I really focused a lot on my studies, and I remember a lot of my dental teammates, they would go out on the weekends and they would party and they have a good time. And even at that point, I never really had a drink or drank anything until I think I was third year of dental school. It was the first time I was like, they were like,
you 16, 17?
I think I don't remember. I think I was like,
not.
at that point, I think third year, I was probably like 20 or something like that. Yeah. And still to that day, I've never had a drink. I was just, I came to school at 8 o'clock. I studied hard. I was at the library from 5 to 10 p.m. every day, and I would study a lot and just focus a lot on my future and my goals. And, I graduated dental school, and I opened up, Bright Smile Centers in Boston, and they approached me and they're like, we want you to be the leading dentist there. And so I opened up, I became a supervising dentist straight out of school. And I just really worked really hard. And, when I moved to California, I had this vision of becoming, a cosmetic dentist and really changing lives. And it was very important to me, not just to do dentistry and just drill a cavity and fill it and just kind of like the, everyday dentistry. I really fell in love with, as changing people's lives. And I realized that, with my hands and my fingers, I can really transform lives from the inside out. And that's when I really, really fell in love with dentistry. And I realized this is where I want to be. This is like the niche where what I want to do and what I want to be. And I worked hard towards it. I perfected it. I took a lot of courses in cosmetic dentistry and veneers and things like that. And it was just a lot of work. Definitely the journey was not easy.
Yeah.
But, resilience and perseverance played a big role in it.
Yeah, which leads me to my next question.
Yes.
As someone that had such a hard upbringing in the war, and now being a doctor, and you're doing so well for yourself, and you're so intelligent and so stunningly beautiful, and
I love
you take such good care of yourself. You're such a great mom and such a great wife. I mean, I could be here all day.
You're so sweet.
To someone that just doesn't know how to get out of because we don't have any control on the cards that we're given, right? You had no control that you were born in that, right?
Absolutely.
So what would you say is your best advice to someone that were just dealt really hard cards, and for them to just get out of it and just go after your dreams and become the best in whatever it is that you want to do?
I think the most important thing is having hope. Having hope and having faith. And I think without the two, you can't get anywhere. And I think if I didn't have faith, first of all, in God and the vision that I wanted to be, where I wanted to be, and faith in myself, you have to believe in yourself. You really do. Yeah. And along the way, you're going to get a lot of people that will put you down, that will say certain things like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you pushing so hard? Whatever. Having faith is so important, and believing in yourself is the number one thing that I would recommend to anyone, because you can't wait for other people to believe in you. You can't wait for Mr. Prince to come save you. No one's going to come save you. And I think a lot of people sit around and they wait for things to happen. And they wait and they're like, things are going to get better. Someone's going to come and help me. Someone's going to come and save me. And I realized at a young age, no one's coming to save me and no one's coming to help me. And if I don't do this on my own, then I'm not going to be the person I want to be. I'm not going to have the success that I want to have. I'm not going to have the life that I want to have. And so I really I've always believed in myself, and I've always had a lot of self-worth. And I think also that comes from, growing up with parents that really taught me that as well. And I always, no matter what I did, I always looked at myself, and I always, looked at myself always with a head high. I always had my head up high. And I always was very proud of what I've done. And I knew I was going to get there. And, I knew it was going to be challenging. I knew it was going to be hard, but I believed in myself. And that's number one. And having hope, you have to always be hopeful. And I know sometimes certain situations are hard and tough, and you feel like, you know what, I'm in this dungeon. I'm never going to get out of it. And that's how I felt as a child. I was in this dungeon in the dark on cement floors, sleeping and praying. But I think if it wasn't for hope and knowing that, the day is going to come where you are going to get to that point, it wouldn't have worked for me. I probably would have given up at some point and just, I don't know where I would have been at this point. But having hope and faith and believing in yourself are probably the three major priorities that I would definitely highly recommend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Due to time, I do have to wrap it up a little bit. I know I could go forever.
But you did make me cry.
So, Guitta, what is next for you?
Well, I right now, I definitely, of course, dentistry is still, going strong for me, and I'm still working full time. But I'm leaning towards, I'm doing a lot of public speaking and going on stages, and I would love to to do more of that because I really want to make an impact in the world, and definitely, women empowerment and all of that. I'm in the process of writing a book as well about my story. So yeah, so I'm super excited to.
Wait, do we have an exclusive deadline or
it's probably in the next 6 months. So yeah, so that's super exciting.
You're gonna have to come back so we could talk about your book.
Yes.
And then we can,
we'll share it,
promote it, and all the things. So you have to come back for that for sure.
For sure, yes. Yay! When it's almost to the end, I will definitely love to do that.
Do you get to share what it's called? Not yet.
Not yet. It's a big surprise.
Okay,
but I will very soon. So I have been, and as you know, I also have the podcast, so putting in a lot of hours into that. But my time right now is going into really getting those thoughts into the book and writing the book. And it's something that I've been wanting to do on my own because it's my story and it's my childhood and, my journey. So just hoping to do more, more and more public speaking and the book, and just super excited for what's to come. So.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yes.
I was actually thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I'm sure we didn't even touch the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There's so much more to you in your story, and it belongs in a book. In fact, I think it belongs in a movie.
Yes.
That would be an incredible, like a Pursuit of Happiness type style of movie. I think, I don't know, something
that's
maybe to look into it.
So, yeah, I'm super excited for that.
So I asked all my guests this question to kind of start wrapping it up. In your definition, what does pain to power mean to you?
Oh, wow. Pain to power is really rising above all the struggles and all the worry and all the pain and everything that you go through in life. Rising above it, making the most out of it, and not just surviving, but thriving as well.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love that. Where can everyone connect with you, Guitta?
Well, you can find me on The Real OC Dentist on Instagram. My podcast is The Smile Diaries, and my website is therealocdentist.com.
Woo! Yes. Thank you so much for joining me today, Miss Guitta.
I love you. And you made me cry.
Yes, that was my goal. Just kidding. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for the next episode. And until then.